Hi there, and welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. Today we're going to start Volume 18, Episode 1 of my Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac scrapbooks. And I'm not really going in order as far as the items and events that happened in 2006, but I happen to have this page ready, and it's kind of a shoddy page. Unfortunately, I made it quite some time ago. I was thinking to maybe redo it, but I'm just going to leave it as is because really there's more to the show story than there was pictures of the show. So 2006, Stevie Nicks was busy. She was doing a lot of dates with Tom Petty. She did some stuff on her own as well. And like I said, in prior videos in this volume, there'll be like Lindsey Buckingham and other things in 2006. But starting off with this one just had a great story, and I thought it was a good way to start this series, volume 18. So Stevie Nicks was on tour with Tom Petty, or not really on tour. I think she was pretty much at every date, but it could be that she missed a couple. But it was really known that she would definitely be there at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles. And I think that this might have been the first and only time I want to say that I'd been to the Hollywood Bowl, which is a phenomenal venue. And right off the bat, I got lawn seats in the hopes that when I got there, maybe I could get better seats. And not really knowing the venue at all, I kind of wanted to check it out. It had a really weird setup. I don't know if anybody's been to the Hollywood Bowl, but if you look at a map of it, it kind of looks like a zigzag, a whole bunch of blocks. Because what it is that when you go into the venue, there is like a zigzag through there of seats in the kind of like in the second tier, I want to say. And that's because all those little tiers, maybe in section 2 and 3, before you go up to like concrete seats and then lawn, they're kind of like box seats, I want to say. And at the Hollywood Bowl, you can bring your own food and wine, apparently, which I'd never heard of before. I think they have to check it at the door and stuff like that. Just make sure that that's all you brought. But you can bring a certain amount of food and your own items to a concert there, which is really cool. And I think if you're up on the lawn, you can bring your own food and drink, which is just really neat. But I think it's wine only. I don't think it's hard alcohol, which I'm sure a lot of people, try and pull off. But I think they probably check that stuff because if it's wine, of course, it's going to be sealed and all that stuff. Anyway, we got the tickets for the lawn. And when I got there, I learned my first valuable lesson that if seeing a show at the Hollywood Bowl, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that you're going to get a better seat. If you do not get a seat to begin with, you're shit out of luck. So what you got is what you got. Hollywood Bowl is so popular because so many people come from all over the world to that place, and then there's the celebrities, and then there's people, for LA area as a whole, it's just guaranteed to be sold out. And we're talking about Tom Petty here, which is also the first time I want to say, I think this might have been the first show where I had seen Tom Petty. Now, I love Tom Petty. I just want to preface my video with saying this, but honestly, he was never really high up on my list of people to see. But being a Stevie was going to be there, of course, it's going to be a double whammy because it's like I'm seeing Tom Petty and I'm seeing Stevie Nicks. Maybe I think he had come out at a couple other shows. I think I have mentioned that, but I never saw Tom Petty solo. And before I go any further with this, I will say that on my first time seeing Tom Petty really as his own, I kind of was like, Stevie who? Because Tom Petty was a force to be reckoned with, and the songs that he did, just everything was freaking magnificent. And I still don't really register him as like one of my top favorite male performers. Like I have Lindsey, and I've always had a thing for Elton John. I don't really care much for him as a person, but his music. And Tom Petty, I like both him and his music, but I still don't just really rank him when I think about my top male performers. I just really don't think Tom Petty. And it's kind of a shame because he does really have a great repertoire, whether you're really into that kind of style of music or not. He's just a really great singer. A real humble guy, really, really just a nice person. And of course, it's devastating that we lost him, not just for Stevie's sake, but, for music. It's just, he's really a fixture in rock and roll. And, we're so lucky to live in a time where we had Tom Petty. So again, we get to the Hollywood Bowl, we get there early trying for the seats, and it's like just in the first, hour, we're like, this is not going to happen. So we're like, shit, we have lawn. Now, I'm still with my friend who's attended all the Say You Will shows and all the Gold Dust Tour shows. And, we're like, lawn, we've just been seeing, front rows left and right overnight. So, the hell, we're going to stay on the lawn. We're going to figure it out. We'll find some people or we'll do something. We'll figure it out. No, it wasn't like that. So, in the Hollywood Bowl, you can't kind of walk around. There's a limit to your walking around. Whereas most venues, you can walk around obviously on the outside, with no bothers. If you walk around, in the table, or I mean, in the rows or down the aisles or something like that, you're going to be just shut down completely. But in the Hollywood Bowl, it is really easy to just walk around the whole place and really not be stopped. If you're seen doing it over and over again, I imagine they'll probably, say, hey, go to your seat or something like that. But we just really didn't encounter that much of a problem. I don't know if it's always been like that or it just was for this time, but it was pretty neat. So we go and we sit up at the lawn, and let me tell you, at the Hollywood Bowl, the lawn is in BF Egypt. It's just not okay. So we're just like, no, we're gonna just fake this. And worst case scenario, we have lawn seats. But if we just walk around, are able to get some pictures or kind of get close, it is what it is. We're still there for the show. We're in the venue. We're there for the show. It's good to go. So we're walking around, and I think actually the show had not begun yet. And we're in some places, and these box seats that I speak of and stuff like that, there was a lot of empty seats, just a ton of empty seats. Otherwise, the lawn was completely full. The seats down in front were full. The if anybody's been to like the Greek Theater in Berkeley, California, where it's kind of like stadium seating, but like Roman kind of, like it's like concrete, like really you want to bring a pillow for your butt if you're having to sit on that, because we were literally sitting on like a concrete step basically, but it's it's high enough for a seat, and so we're kind of sitting around there and nobody's bothering us, and we go into those little catacombs, if you will. It's just you walk down the aisle, and then there's like a box, and you go left and right inside the box, and then you have to kind of back out to go back out, and then you go to the left, and then it's kind of left and right in the box. So it's really weird. It's kind of this zigzag again through this box seating. So I forget where my friend is at. I think she's trying to wander, and we're just both trying to like stake it out. And like, if she finds a good spot, she'll flag me down. If I find a good spot, I'll flag her down. And I know that I'm in the box seat somewhere where I should not be, but I'm trying to play it cool, and I'm still kind of learning this, and I've never been in this venue before, so I have no idea what to expect. And all I know is that I'm looking around and just being like, oh, like I totally belong here, and I'm looking for my friend, and where is she? And gosh darn it, what time? And checking my phone and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just looking, because I'm not looking at anybody or for anybody, obviously, I'm just acting. And I noticed that this guy is looking right back at me, and it looks like I'm staring at him, of which I am totally not. But for the love of God, I cannot tell you who it is, but he was freaking famous. And I can't tell you who it is because I don't remember, and I know that I wasn't a big fan of his at all. And it wasn't like Seinfeld. I keep, in my head, I keep thinking of somebody from Seinfeld, but it wasn't Seinfeld. It wasn't Jason Alexander. And then in my head, when I was trying to remember who it was, it seemed like he was somebody's father. So I thought maybe Jason Alexander's father, but I looked that up before I made this video, and I couldn't, it's not him. And then I thought it was like a political, he's either, somewhere in that kind of Seinfeld type genre of comedy or like a political comedian. And I could not track him down. And I could just see his face. And right when I really try and concentrate, it kind of gets blurry. But when he looked at me, like, and kind of like, looked back, like, why are you staring at me? I'm like, then I really just switched ahead and, kind of looking around, like getting really nervous, like, dude, I'm so not staring at you. I'm just, back here in the seat I don't belong in, just trying to bullshit my way to get closer and closer to the, to the stage without much luck. So he goes about his way, and I think I kind of move, and, I'm embarrassed because it feels like I've been caught, but nothing's happened or anything like that, And then I want to say, then the lights go down, not too long after that. And my friend has come back to me, and like I said, we're not really sitting and getting comfortable. We're just trying to stake it out. And mind you, there's plenty of people that work at the Hollywood Bowl who are walking around and stuff like that, but nobody's really saying much of anything to us. So it seems like we went one place, and we got called out, and we're like, oh, I'm sorry, we're looking for friends, playing that game and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, they're super nice. Oh, it's okay, just go back to where you're supposed to be. Oh yeah, no problem, and stuff like that. So we're avoiding that person like the plague. Now we've got them down, like, okay, they've seen us. So now we got to go over to the right or to the left or whatever it was, and stay out of that person, whoever's on, monitoring that side of things. So without just going on and on and talking too much, and I do apologize, we finally find our way into a box seat. And, meanwhile, all the other box seats are filled up. And when you go in again to these little cubbies, there's like two little tables, these little stand-up tables. So, when they sell these box seats, it's a table to the left and a table to the right. And so we get in there, and, it's busy behind us and it's busy in front of us. So somebody would really have to come and be looking, down in each box to see if they meant to be there. And if you're acting like you're supposed to be there, then nobody's going to bother you. And we made sure that we were kind of in an area that was vacant, nobody was there. And, and then it seemed like we were in like Flynn. And while we're staying there, each one of us is taking turns trying to go down to the front stage to see if people are standing and if we can get down there. And that's why when you see my pictures, some are really cool and clear, but you can see I'm like racing down, trying to take pictures and then racing back and going down, like I did at K-Fog and everywhere else. When all this time I probably could have just stood there, probably just said, hey, does anybody mind, without, getting in front of anybody. Probably could have stayed there all night, but I digress. So we're in this box and everything's going fine. Nobody's bothering us. And next thing you know, this couple comes in and they go, they're entered and they're taken to the table right to us, to the right of us. And nobody bothers us. Nobody says, hey, are you guys supposed to be here? Not a word, nothing. And these two sit down and stuff like that. And it's pitch black and it's probably a good 30, 35 minutes, maybe 40 minutes into the show. So, a decent amount of time, not fully, but, enough into the show. And, I'm kind of like, talking to my friend and my friend is saying something to me and I'm not registering and stuff like that. So when she's talking to me, I kind of look to the right and it's freaking, and now I just forgot his goddamn name. Anita, son of a bitch. He is the guy from White Palace with Susan Sarandon and son of a bitch. I just forgot his name. Anyway, I had a really big crush on him. I always had a really big crush on him. And I think Less Than Zero, I think he was the, oh God, it just almost came to me. I'll think of it when I'm talking. And he's sitting there and he's also on Ally McBeal and just all sorts of stuff. And I always had a little crush on him, but I especially loved him from White Palace with Susan Sarandon. I was a big fan of him from that movie. And he's sitting there and I'm like, holy shit. And I turn to my friend, I'm like, oh my God, it's so-and-so. She's like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. So it's so funny. So here he is. And, there's about, 2 feet of space at the most between us, but it looks like he's there with the date. And so we're just going along being like, A, we're totally supposed to be here. And B, there's this freaking celebrity sitting right there next to us. It's just so crazy to me, right? Stevie Nicks comes out for her first song, or maybe her second, because like I said, they were kind of late coming into the show. And she's up on stage and she's doing her thing. And this guy who, like I said, I've had a crush on and always been, highly respected and stuff like that. Just, I think, a really good actor. He turns to the woman he's with and he's like, ugh, Jesus, is she going to do this shit all night long? She's doing, the spins again. And he's like, I'm not quoting him exactly, but I was just like, you fucking... Like, I have been a sincere fan of yours, sir, and you have the audacity to... And he's like, oh, this same shtick again. Is she really going to be doing this? Is she getting too old for this? And he's going on and on and on. And Anita's sitting over here being like, you mother... Trying so hard to keep my cool and be like, A, I'm supposed to be here. B, I'm sitting next to this guy who I've always had a crush on. But, he's just in Stevie. How dare you? You son of a bitch. So he's going on and on. And then finally, I think that, when you're a person like he is and such like that, probably you're supposed to not, maybe he reserved the whole box. I don't know. Because the next thing I know, we'd been there for, like 45 minutes, an hour ourselves, and probably shared about 15, 20 minutes of time with him and his date or significant other, whoever she was, who was there. But somebody came over and tapped us and they're like, oh, do you have your tickets? And we're like, no, God, the lights went down. We got lost and we can't figure it out. And it's so busy. And they're like, oh, it's okay. Well, we're just going to ask you to step out if you don't mind. And we're like, oh yeah, sure. God, we're so sorry. And they were just really nice. And like, once we got out of the box and into the aisle, they like walked away. They're just like, so we probably could have gone back there, but now that somebody's in the box with us, of course we're not going to do that. So I don't know exactly what happened next or how it happened next, but the next thing you know, like 3 rows ahead of us, we're in this box with about 10 other fucking drunk ass people. 3 sheets to the wind. But they were so nice. A little too nice, because after a little while, the girl was making moves on my friend and then making moves on me. Just so drunk, she didn't give a shit. I don't even think she cared what I looked like, that I was male or female. She didn't shiv a git. But we're like, whatever, we're here, they're letting us be there. And she's not like trying to stick her tongue down my throat, but she's hanging off and she's kind of like trying to kiss me on the cheek. And I'm like, oh, honey, stop it. Like, you fucking weirdo. It's Los Angeles. And just whatever. And the next thing I know, security is back, not the same people, thank God. And they tap on their shoulders and they're like, guys, like, what are you doing here? And we're like, we know, right? Like, these people have been here the whole time. Like, we're looking for our friends and they, they came and then they went because they couldn't stay because they totally lying. Those people weren't supposed to be in the box, which was funny as shit. So they escorted all them out because they were drunk as fuck and left us. They didn't ask us for a ticket. They didn't ask for shit. They just left us, but asked those people to vacate. And that looks like they had been there for quite some time. So that was freaking hilarious. So we ended up staying there for most of the show. And I think maybe I like I said, we kind of would dart out here and there, but for the bulk of the show, we were left alone in that box, which I thought was so funny. So we got the first box with the actor, whose name is still evading me, and that's going to piss me off something else. I should have written it down beforehand. James Spader. James Spader. Thank you. No, I knew it would come to me eventually. James Spader. And so we were in the box at that time, and then we spent the rest of the time in that box after the drunk people left, and we're left to be. So before I finish and go any further on, these are the pictures that I took. And like I said, you can see they're very tiny, you know, because some were taken from a distance. Let me take this out. This is a really old page, so that plastic is kind of funky. So some are kind of far away because, you know, it's all different shots. And every time I would go up to the front to try and take a shot of Stevie, people were very nice to me. People were very accommodating and like, oh, get in front, try and take a picture. You know, like so nice. Like that's probably one where I, you know, got towards the front. But like nobody was like, bitch, get out of the way, or, you know, nothing like that. It was such a nice and cool and reserved group of people. Everybody was really, really civil and really nice. And I don't know, don't make fun of this page. You know, I made it a long time ago, and I was probably pissed off at the time that, you know, they were all tiny shots and from far away, and I think I just did what I did. But, you know, they're mine. I took them. You know, they're not Andre Agassi pictures. You know, you can make out who Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty are in these shots, so that's all that matters, right? So yeah, so that was that. So after the show, we are there, and the show started at like 7:30, but it seemed like it was light still. It couldn't have been light, but long story short, all I know is that we got into the back. How in the Jesus we got into the back, like where the party was happening for Tom, you know, and everybody else. And of course, we're totally going for Stevie. We just walked in there, and I don't know that venue. I didn't know where the back was. I didn't know. But funny enough, like when you leave it and go in the back, it's like, I can't even tell you or explain to you how or where the back of the venue is, where the people will go in the back. You know what I mean? And there's food. I mean, good looking food. And Nita, being the fat little piggy she is, totally wanted to scarf up, but I was like totally avoiding everything because there was some fine ass looking food there. This is no like, you know, Domino's pizza delivery for something. There was really nice food and desserts and all this stuff, but I was behaving like a good girl. And so the first thing that I noticed, and I'm really angry at this because I did not have the appreciation for him that I do today, because I always thought of him from the Traveling Wilburys, and I knew he was LEO. But Jeff Lynne, I am a huge effing ELO fan, like a closet, like not because it's embarrassing or anything like that, but they're a band that I just forget to realize just how freaking upper tier they are, just what a big part of my childhood, Xanadu and all that kind of stuff they are. And Jeff Lynne was there. And Jeff Lynne has always been known to be kind of a hermit, kind of a quiet kind of guy, but he was there and he seemed to be kind of like acknowledging and being cool with people. And had I known and thought to get my head out of my ass, I probably could have approached him politely, like I always do, and just very graciously said something, because nobody was like, you know, surrounding him or like, you know, hey, keep away. And he didn't have that vibe about him and stuff. He was definitely keeping to himself, but he wasn't like completely shut down, standoffish. He was talking to other people and walking around, and actually he's kind of stationary, but kind of walking around in a little area. And yeah, so I totally lost out on that opportunity. And then I run into this girl, literally run into her, and I turn around and I realize this didn't get Scrapbook because I forgot all about having it. But then there was Lisa Loeb, and so I met her that night. And let me tell you something, and I said this out loud after taking the picture with her. Never been much of a fan of hers, but boy, she was really literally, I pray to baby Jesus, A, forgive me, and B, I hope to Jesus she did not hear that, because it wasn't meant to be rude. It was not meant to be, but she was so polite and so kind and so gracious about taking a photo that in my head, I'm just thinking like, oh my God, that's, you know, that really turned me on to like being a more of a fan of somebody when they're so gracious and accepting of something. But literally my friend took the picture with me and I'm like, oh my God, wow, that was so cool. I've never been much of a fan of hers, but so rude. Like if I heard that I was a celebrity, I would have turned around and be like, bitch, give me your camera. I'm going to delete. I think it's funny. Maybe you guys won't think it's funny or that I am a bitch. And it's okay either way. I'm totally okay with that. So we hang around there for a little while longer, and there's actually no Tom Petty and no Stevie Nicks at all. Not happening. I think that Mike Campbell had come around back there. But listen, at the time, again, I just wasn't thinking where I'm at today. Does that make any sense? Like, I love and respect these people. I love meeting people. I love meeting celebrities, but I just wasn't like, oh my God, Mike Campbell or Jeff Lynne. I don't know why my head just wasn't in there. And only because I literally ran into her and then stopped her when I realized who she was, did I stop and ask for a picture of of Lisa, like she had just come by, and I kind of like backed up into her accidentally, profusely apologized, realized who she was, and then was like, oh my God, do you mind if we take a picture? And again, she's so nice. God bless her, because I just, to this day, obviously I still feel terrible when I just blurted out what I did, because yeah, anyway. So we're leaving, we're going back to our car, and we're having to walk, like, again, I don't even know how we accidentally found our way into the back party, but when we left, by this time, we're having to walk way the hell back around to get to our car, and I can't even picture now what the proximity is from where we parked to where the venue is to the concert place is, or again how we walked into the back, if the back is behind the theater. I just don't know. I mean, obviously we're all right there, but my point is that we're walking, and my friend is like, holy shit, and I'm like, what is your problem? Like, what's the big deal? Freaking right behind us, and I heard a man and a woman talking. It's freaking Jackson Browne. Now, I'm not a fan of Jackson Browne. I don't dislike him. I'm just, it's okay. She's losing her shit, and because he's right behind us, and he's talking to this woman just like anybody, and he's walking her to his car. Walking her to her car. I apologize. What a nice guy, right? And I'm, probably obviously she's somebody if she knows Jackson Browne, but I mean, he's just being like Lisa Loeb and like anybody else, just like, just they're not celebrities, in my opinion. And I thought that was so gracious because, I'm sure he probably could have had a car or somebody else walk her to her car, but we're walking a hell of a long distance back to our car, and so is he. I don't even know who's maybe she's going to give him a ride back up. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But he's saying something to her, and because they're only like maybe 10 feet behind us, and we're kind of going downhill, I said something to him like, we've got to stop meeting like this, or made some kind of joke to kind of like break the ice. And he laughed, and he's like, oh, I know, it's really a far walk, so I'm really glad I'm walking where you ladies are at. And so we're just like, what a nice guy, right? And I mean, probably my friend would have died 10 deaths to be like, hey, can we take a picture? And probably we could have. I didn't care, so I didn't like do more. She's super like shy and stuff like that, so she wasn't gonna at all. But I kind of wish in hindsight I had, because it probably would have been a big deal for her, and in hindsight it would have been a big deal for me, because I certainly also appreciate him a little bit more than I did in 2006. But so that was my story. It was full of celebrities. I wish to God I could remember that guy who was looking at me in the venue. That was pretty funny, and but it was really cool. I was really grateful. And you'll see in the next, I don't know if in the next videos, because I might try and go in order again of 2006, but I think I saw 4 more shows of Tom Petty, because he did a bunch of shows at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, California. So he did like 2, and then he left and came back and did 2 or something like that. So at least, yeah, I think maybe only 4, maybe 3, but I want to say 4. It could be 5 even. I'll have to check and see, but it was pretty phenomenal. But that Hollywood Bowl and all those people who were there, that was pretty cool. And getting the seats and just kind of the funny stories about being there. And that damn James Spader, right? What are you going to do? I mean, to this day, I love him, but when I see him, I'm like, you bastard, how can you pick on Stevie Nicks? It is her shtick. Like, and why are you at a Tom Petty show where Stevie Nicks is going to be there if that's how you feel about her? Jerk. So that is my story, and I hope you enjoyed it. And again, more Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks shows, coming up, and some more adventures of Stevie in 2006. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope everybody has a great night. We'll see you next time. Bye.